Hi. We're going to talk about pseudo hostility. What pseudo hostility is fake hostility. It's suppressed anger that comes out as a joke. For some people, that's how they keep the relationships together. Not to keep them healthy, but to keep them going unhealthily, okay? Why do they do that? I talked a lot here about homeostasis, and then I explain that you have, just like your nervous system regulates your body, we need equilibrium in our social environment, okay? This is why we keep these relationships going. We know they're unhealthy, okay? But we keep it going, right? Because at the core of our programming, we are wired to maintain stability, not health. Okay, we need things to be the same. That's how your nervous system stays safe. Just as we learn language when we are children, when we are little children, we learn from people around us how to behave in social situations, and our brains get wired. So, what becomes stable is how we learn it in our childhood, right? Like your brain just knows that this is how it is. Okay? If you grew up in a dysfunctional environment, you learned pseudo hostility. We develop our sense of self as human beings to healthy mirroring, right? When our parents mirror our emotional states, it helps us develop, okay? When we are sad, we are allowed to be sad. They recognize our sadness. When we are angry, we are allowed to be angry. They recognize your anger, right? They validate your feelings. They validate that our feelings matter. If your parents dismiss your feelings or your parents weren't around much, you learn not to express yourself. Basically, you learn to lie about your feelings. Now, as an adult, you want to be honest and you want to be kind, but you don't know how. That's not how you're wired, okay? You're wired with coping mechanisms that are cruel instead of kind. You don't have the skills to express your emotions, especially stress. You can, but not with kindness, okay? You use cruel words instead of kind words. Language fails you. You have no clue what you're saying, okay? It's like a bunch of mumbo jumbo, horrible words put together, and you just vomit them, okay? That's how you learn, okay? Now you need to do some labor to learn how to articulate yourself with kindness. You just got wired wrong. Now you need to do all the work to unwire all that. When you grow up like we grow up, the sense of who we are, the sense of self kind of gets distorted. And the relationship you have with yourself, it doesn't feel safe, okay? You develop a huge amount of shame simply because you just exist. It's because you have needs, because you can't be who you are, you can't be authentic. Hold on. So you don't know how to be authentic, okay? Because when you grew up in a dysfunctional environment, the sense of self kind of gets distorted, and it points towards negativity. It creates something like a body dysmorphia, but for your life, for the entirety of your life. You get conditioned to hide the sense of who you are because you're ashamed for who you are, okay? You don't feel like you deserve to be who you are, and you want to connect, with your people, with your tribe. So now you start to take on some of the qualities of your parents, right, as a survival mechanism. And now you're doing this pseudo hostility all over again, and you're gonna do it to your kids, right? So we're all wired for negative bias. which means that your brain will always pay attention towards negativity. It's like self-dysmorphia. You need to remember that a negative mind doesn't give you a positive life. Your life will remain negative until you work at this. And this takes years, maybe decades. Okay? And with that, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, and don't kill any insects today. Look how pretty it is.